One of the most interesting things at Comic-Con this year was a premiere of Babylon 5: The Road Home. This is an animated film of Babylon 5, which, if you've not seen, is the best science fiction television series ever recorded. And I mean that. It is the best science fiction television series ever recorded. You should watch it if you haven't already. As of this recording, it's available, not this yet, but the actual show is available on Tubi for streaming. And they're actually announcing that there's going to be a Blu-ray release of the series in remastered high definition, finally, for the first time ever, on December 5th this year. So check that out. Now, I watched this movie. This is an animated film called The Road Home, and it brings back the surviving cast with a director who actually has worked on a lot of the DC animated films. And the DC animated films actually have been pretty good as far as those go. They're actually more faithful comic book adaptations a lot of times than the movies are. And so they had a good team working on this. J. Michael Straczynski wrote the script himself, and it is a one-off vignette. So the movie's, about a little over an hour and a half long. It took during the convention showing last night, and it follows Captain John Sheridan, who's now the president of the Interstellar Alliance, as he gets unstuck in not only time, but also space. So there's this tachyon kind of burst that happens at this unveiling of this new power plant on Minbar, and it reactivates and triggers the thing that got him unstuck in time in the series. So the first thing right away a lot of people are going to ask is if I haven't seen the series, is this decent to watch? Because a lot of this is references, and I just referenced part of the series, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, and that's how it goes. Straczynski layered a lot of those in there. So almost every scene that is in this is some callback to some sort of portion of the series. So if you are familiar with the series, you're going to be like, wow, I know that, I know that, I know that. Wow, this is good memories, which is great. I mean, for something that's a 30-year anniversary sort of bring back where they haven't had anything being released for the content of this for over 20 years, I mean, you've got something that's kind of nice on that level for a fan. But for a normal normie viewer who's just going to tune in for a nice science fiction animated film, yeah, it works. So I talked to a couple people who have never seen Babylon 5 before after the screening, and they said, yeah, it was a good film. I liked the characters. I got it. I understood everything, and it was fun. So, of course, they didn't get the deeper sort of connection to all the Babylon 5 stuff, but it worked as a film, and that's a good thing for something that's, like I said, this far out from the original series. Now, it opens actually with a very muted sort of scene. Now, Captain Sheridan's about to give some speech as he's leaving, and he can't find his favorite socks. And so Delenn cracks jokes with him. He cracks jokes back. And it's a very, sort of a domestic couple sort of scene, which you don't expect from a science fiction thing. You expect them to open in some action or something like that. Now, this is a thing that Straczynski does. And so I've read so much of his writing over the years that I actually know his little ticks on how he actually formulas things. And he does this a lot. If you look at the way he opened his Spider-Man run for comics, it's a whole diatribe of Spider-Man swinging through, lamenting on how he doesn't have pockets in his Spider-Man suit. So he likes to push something mundane, a lot of the times with clothing involved, in order to get you connected with the characters. And so being already connected to the characters, I just kind of smiled because I've seen him use that device a few times before. But it is a cute little setup, and it does highlight that they have a nice, steady domestic relationship, which is kind of fun. Now, there are a lot of quips in that, and actually, oddly, John Sheridan makes a lot of quips throughout this in sort of a humor level. And I think he amped up the humor level because it's animated, so you can't quite take it as seriously as you would if you would have been taking a live action movie as seriously. So I think that was very much intentional. Straczynski said on the panel last night that he actually wanted to give Sheridan some humor dialogue because Bruce Boxleitner is a funny guy in person, which I've met him, and I can confirm that. And he had to play the straight man on Babylon 5, so he had to be the commander who's very, very tense all the time. So he never got to do that. So what happens over the course of this, which you could probably tell from the trailer, is Sheridan falls through time. He falls through different timelines and realities where things like the Shadow War didn't happen, or the Shadows won, or the Vorlon, went and just went scorched earth on everything. And so all of these things happen as he falls through different spots in time, and of course connects with different Babylon 5 characters, so you remember all the characters. And very simple plot. Unfortunately, I really hate the multiverse, multi-timeline thing. It bothers me because, to me, it has an intention, and it always has an intention, that the intention is going to be the reboot. And when you do the reboot of the show, to have it in a different timeline, to have it with the same characters doing that kind of thing, it just feels kind of icky to me every single time. No matter how it's done, no matter how well it's done, I just don't love it, and I'm getting really sick of it because it's being used to such a huge effect, obviously in the Marvel universe, but it's being used in everything now in order to push this kind of multiverse sort of thing, and try to, I guess, mitigate the fact that they're not just continuing with the same canon and same storyline any longer. I really wish they'd do something like a next Babylon 5 Next Generation or something like that. It felt a lot better in Star Trek when it had that quote reboot, but they just continued things on and actually passed the torch to the next generation. It seemed a little better to me, but I get that in the modern environment, people are so brand connected that, like, if it didn't have John Sheridan in Babylon 5, they wouldn't see that. So that just bothered me as a plot device. And it did end in a way, I'm going to get into the spoilers pretty badly now, where, he didn't go back to the main Prime universe with John Sheridan. When John Sheridan went back and actually got home, we stuck in this new Babylon 5 universe where they're younger and they're back in their heyday, and the Shadow War had not happened. And so it was a open universe, quote, sandbox from there, where the characters are all there, but nothing like that happened, so they could reset it. Now, this is intentional, again, because there are talks of doing a CW Babylon 5 reboot. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, especially with the strikes going on now. These things tend to get killed pretty quickly, and Babylon 5's had a lot of stop-starts of like feature films and new series and all that over the years where it didn't work. So that left a sour taste in my mouth, just because like this movie definitely was a preparation for a reboot, and I could feel it the entire way through. But that said, it kept me engaged the entire time. So we did hit through different timelines and all that in different times. And there were some callbacks to Sleeping in Light, which is the best episode of Babylon 5, the final episode, where, of course, there was some dialogue between Sheridan and Delenn there. And there was this whole beautiful, pretty theme throughout the entire thing, where they're like, oh, the most powerful force in the universe is love. And, despite the fact that you're falling through your quantum mechanics, love will draw you together. It was cute. It was maybe a bit of a boomer sort of philosophical take there. But it was very cute. And actually, here's the deal. All the characters worked very well. The writing was very natural throughout the entire thing. It felt like a Straczynski Babylon 5 episode. So while I got my qualms out of the way at the beginning of this, it did succeed in what it aimed to do. It was definitely a very good love letter to the fans with tons of Easter eggs. The actors all fell right back into their roles very well. The script was very good. Like I said, even though it's a multiverse timeline thing, like, you kind of knew what was going to happen. He's going to fall through time. He's going to find some way to get back. It's going to be with Delenn, and then they're going to have a happy ending. And there's nothing wrong with that. Even though I kind of knew where the plot was going and how it was going to finish before even halfway through the film, I was fine with that. You don't need it. And I love this, honestly. You don't need an epic twist or some big turn or whatever every single time. That's something in modern writing that really bugs me a lot, because they try so hard to subvert expectations. Straczynski did not do that here. He just said, you know what? I'm going to respect the fans, and this is what I'm going to do with the thing. And I really, really appreciate that from the writing angle. Now, of the Babylon 5 movies, because they've done a bunch of TV movies afterwards, they did a restart called The Lost Tales. They did Legend of the Rangers reboot. They did Crusade. Everything in terms of everything after Babylon 5 ended, this is the best sort of feature film or even TV series pilot or whatever. This is the best offering so far. It's nice that it's done in animation, because the actors are much aged at this point. The animation's beautiful. They have like kind of 3D backgrounds with the 2D environment in front of it. The director did this with his Super Sons movie that he did, and kind of kept that same stylistic thing to where it felt very serious. And it felt, almost anime-like in quality on that level. So I really appreciate the directing. I thought it was done great. The sets looked good. They expanded things a little bit from Babylon 5. Babylon 5 had a really low budget, so you got to see things a little bit more detailed than you did in the original show, but it still kept the vibe of the original show perfect. So as a Babylon 5 movie, like I said, it was really good on that level. And as just a feature film in general, it was a lot of fun to watch in general too. So this is really well done. It is a good movie, and didn't have any real problems other than the fact that I just don't like multiverses myself, and I don't like that sort of thing in general. But as far as that goes, it was done really well, and everything just went swimmingly. Now, the big elephant in the room is the fact that a lot of the actors who are no longer with us, like Andreas Kastsulas, who played Jakar, I probably botched his name, I'm sorry, one of the best actors ever, and of course Jerry Doyle and others, they were replaced by voice actors, and so they actually mentioned in the panel afterwards that the cast, the surviving cast was all message saying, hey, we're going to do this, but I have to use voice actors to replace some of these people. Are you okay with that? And they all unanimously said okay. And they did list a nice thing for the credits for those who had fallen over the course of the years. It was very touching when we saw that at the end there too. Now, the people did a decent job, but it's just, if you know the show and you know these actors, they just can't replace them. And so, it does feel a little sour. But of course, the people who were involved, they, uphill battle. There was nothing they could do about that. But they did do a good job, all things considered. So overall, the pacing was good. The storyline was good. They're a little corny at times with some of the dialogue. It's very much a J. Michael Straczynski way of writing, but I like it. I actually like the corny dialogue too. I think he leaned into humor a little bit too much. The timelines that were different, he was very muted on it. So it's like, what if the shadows had won? What if the shadows weren't here? It wasn't like they went over the top to like these weird different multiverses or whatever, but it was very muted on that level. So it just kept the feel of the show even in those extra timeline universes, which was very nice too, because again, I would have just not enjoyed it if he went further. And I think he understood that. Like I said, I think he kept the fans in mind first, which is a good thing on this. As I said earlier in the review, I thought this was the best offering from Babylon 5 since the series went off the air. And I think it is a pretty good show. I would watch it again because I'd like to kind of get some of the Easter eggs, from not having to look at the plot perspective. And that's always a good thing. So I call this an 8 out of 10 overall. And it is worth seeing. Now, I don't think it's going to perform all that well. I don't think a lot of people are invested in Babylon 5 anymore. I think it's been way too long since we've had anything. And this is unfortunate because, I'd love to see something like this return and actually be done well and get more of it in the future. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.